Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook and today, Pod 33, I'll be looking at the result of Bournemouth by bringing you my match review, player rankings and my man of the match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce, Wilfried Zaha and Patrick Van Aanholt after the game. So let's begin. Second half goals from Scott Dan and Christian Benteke earned Sam Allardyce his first league win as Palace boss, as they beat Bournemouth 2-0 at the Vitality Stadium. The Eagles were the better team throughout the game and picked up a deserved win, as well as a confidence-boosting clean sheet thanks to a dogged defensive display. The turning point came a couple minutes after the break when Dan poked home from close range following a Jason punching cross, with Benteke sealing the result in injury time as he thumped home a free header to hand Allardyce his first taste of Premier League success. Defender Patrick Van Aanholt made his Crystal Palace debut in the game at AFC Bournemouth, and Wilfried Zaha returned to the starting 11 following his participation in the African Cup of Nations tournament. It was the winger who had the first chance of the evening on 4 minutes when he collected a pass from James McArthur just outside the box, and his right foot shot struck the bottom of the post. Just a few minutes later, Palace were awarded a free kick inside the Bournemouth half, and Benteke failed to connect with Yohan Cabaye's free kick, but the ball fell to James Tompkins in front of goal. The defender couldn't get a proper shot on goal and the chance went over the bar. The home side had their first chance on the Palace goal just past the 20-minute mark, when Joshua King picked up a loose ball as he ran it in front of the visitors' penalty box and his powerful shot went just wide of Wayne Hennessy's right-hand post. They came closer still 9 minutes before the break, as King and Stanislas combined well, and King's effort went just wide courtesy of deflection on its way to goal. It was soon Palace's turn to be one of those who were creating the danger, as Zaha had his effort from just outside the box pushed away by goalkeeper Arud Boric, as both sides pushed to break the deadlock. 3 minutes before the break, a corner from Jack Wilshere was met by Benik Afobe, but the striker saw his header go well wide off the target. The half came to a close with both still on level terms, and both sides looking back at the chances that could have seen them holding an advantage at the interval. Palace got the perfect start of the second half when Damien Delaney flicked on Jason Punchin's cross, and the captain Dan was on hand from close range to drive the ball into the net past Boric. Just moments later, the visitors were through again courtesy of a fine run by Wilfried Zaha, and he played the ball out to Van Aanholt, but he put his chance over the bar. Van Aanholt was then back down on the left wing, and the new signing found Benteke in the middle with his cross, but his header was straight at Boric. The home side came close to getting back on level terms when Ryan Fraser's cross was met by the head of King, but his header went just over Hennessy's bar as Eddie Howe's men looked for a way back into the game. Chances at both ends continued, as Boric could only watch as James McArthur's shot curled just wide of the post as Palace came close to extending their lead, after the Scot got on the end of a poor clearance. On 67 minutes, Fraser's free kick evaded everyone and fell to the back post, but Francis couldn't get a proper connection on it and the ball was a simple collection for the goalkeeper as it rolled along the ground to him. The home side were finding it difficult to break the Palace defence down, so Stephen Cook took a shot from distance and came just inches from putting his side back on terms. The ball went past a diving Hennessy and then, thankfully for the visiting fans, past the post. The Welshman was then forced to make another critical stop just as the 4 additional minutes were added, when he just managed to stop a Wilshere free kick from creeping into the bottom corner, and that proved critical as a minute later the victory was sealed. Andros Townsend's fresh legs allowed him to speed past Simon Francis on the left and spot Benteke unmarked in the centre, and he blasted home a header that gave Boric no chance and sparked jubilant scenes in the away section and the Allardyce's dugout as the first league win in 9 games was clinched. Crystal Palace executed Sam Allardyce's game plan to perfection, limited Bournemouth to few chances while also taking the opportunities presented to them with clinical precision. Displaying greater tenacity throughout the match, Palace deserved a 2-0 win. Now for some positives from the game. Palace secured their first away clean sheet since December 2016, an indicator of just how fragile the team's defensive play has been. It was also their first Premier League win under new boss. While Bournemouth pressed for an equaliser in the second half, with increasing intensity the defence held firm to keep Eddie Howe's side at bay. The return of Wilfried Zaha gave Allardyce an outlet that he'd been missing. The winger put in a man-of-the-match performance. Now for some negatives from the game. Allardyce was frustrated by Palace's failure not to lead at half-time, which is actually an indicator of just how well his side played. Zaha hit the post earlier on in the game and had another opportunity late in the first half. You can forgive him for being a little bit rusty, however. Crystal Palace picked up a vital victory against AFC Bournemouth on the south coast on Tuesday night to give their chances of beating the drop a must-needed boost. Goals from Scott Dann and Christian Benteke helped the Eagles to a first league win under Sam Allardyce, with Palace picking up their first Premier League victory since December the 3rd to move them on to 19 points ahead of a crucial relegation 6-pointer with Sunderland on Saturday. But what did we learn from the game? Here are 5 things we picked up. Number 1. Zaha back with a bang. As predicted, the returning winger was the danger man for Palace, and it almost marked his return with an early goal. He caused problems for Bournemouth defenders throughout the game and looked to be the biggest threat throughout. Number 2. Dan loves playing against Bournemouth. He got the equaliser against the Cherries early on this season, and the goal in a 2-1 defeat at home last season. And Scott Dann continued that trend with the opener here against Bournemouth, stabbing the ball home from Damien Delaney's flick-on. Number 3. The team spirit is there. The wild celebrations which accompanied Christian Benteke's late goal to seal the points showed what it meant to the Palace players, staff and fans, with the management and substitutes leaping off the bench to celebrate that much needed win. The players on the pitch all ran to the fans too to share their joy and relief at a first success since the beginning of December. Number 4. Can Palace play South Coast sides every week? This was only Crystal Palace's second clean sheet of the season in the Premier League, with both coming against teams from the South Coast in Southampton and now Bournemouth. This was their second trip to the Vitality Stadium in the Premier League, and the Eagles have kept clean sheets on both occasions. If only they could play there every week. And number 5. A case for the defence. Sam Allardyce played with 3 central defenders again at Bournemouth, and it worked, with Palace looking more resilient and compact defensively and restricting the opportunities for the hosts. With new signing Patrick Van Aanholt and Joe Ward flanking the trio of Scott Dann, Damien Delaney and James Tompkins, there was a much better balance to the side, and this formation may be one that Allardyce sticks with. So now you've had the match review, and I'm going to move on to the player rankings. But before we start, don't forget to follow us across social media on Twitter and Facebook at Crystal Palace for all the latest news. And for all you Facebook users out there, don't forget to check out our Facebook group so you can join in with the latest discussions, read the latest news and post your own opinion. So like I said there, if you're on social media and you do want to get in contact with us, then of course you can follow us on both Twitter and Facebook, and you can find them pages using the at Crystal Palace. And obviously I do recommend you do follow these accounts, because on both of these pages we do regularly update it with the latest news, so you can keep up to date with all things Palace. And also some of the other things we do post in there other than news, we do post after game, we do post player and manager interviews. So if you don't want to hear what the manager and the players had to say after the game, then go onto our account so you can get the interviews on there. And obviously quite a lot of a thing that's quite popular at the minute on Twitter, including quite a lot of Crystal Palace accounts, is Twitter polls. So we do run a few Twitter polls on our accounts which you can vote on to obviously have your opinion heard. So do give us a follow on Twitter if you do want to get involved with the Twitter polls and obviously have your opinion heard, or just comment on anything we do post on there. And obviously the Facebook, yes, we don't have polls on Facebook, but obviously do go and follow us on Facebook so you can keep up to date with the latest news. And obviously talking on the topic of Facebook, I would personally highly recommend you do join the Facebook group, which you can find using the at Crystal Palace group. Now obviously I'm part of this group, and I would really recommend you do join the group, because on there after the game fans do go on there to post their own opinion on how they thought the players performed and just anything else they saw about the game, whether that be a decision, whether that be the whole performance of the team. And you go onto the Facebook page, you can comment what you thought about the game. And obviously if you did go to the game, do feel free, if you do join, to obviously post pictures of the game. And obviously it's a really good way for you to post your own opinion for other fans to see, and also it's a good way for you to read what other fans had to say and obviously comment on that. But obviously if you do like to have a say on the game or hear what others had to say after the game, then of course the Facebook group is the best place for you to go because it's a good way to interact with other fans. But certainly I would recommend you do follow all of the other groups, because we do regularly update it, and the same goes for the Facebook group. You don't necessarily have to follow the main page, but if you do join the Facebook group, we do put news on there as well, so you'll keep up to date whichever one you go on. But obviously if you can't find any of these social media groups, Twitter, Facebook page, the Facebook group, using the at, you can just, of course, if you're listening to on iTunes or on YouTube, you can of course go in the description below and click on the links there and obviously get directed straight to the page. And obviously if you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, then of course you can drop a comment below the video on what you thought about the game and who you thought the standout player was for Palace. And obviously the reason we want you to do that is so we want to hear what you had to say. So obviously I give you my player rankings from 1 to 10, and obviously I give you my views about the game. What I want you to do as the listeners is to comment below your opinion on the game, so we can compare our two opinions to see whether we had a similar sort of outlook and view on the game. But the challenge I've set to the listeners for the last few weeks is obviously I give you my player rankings like I've already said, but I want you to give your player rankings in the YouTube description, and obviously they range from 1 to 10, obviously with 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. And this is just basically you rating how you thought the players performed throughout the game and how how much influence you thought they had in the game. So this week, if you do want to do the same, then of course go in below in the YouTube comments and obviously comment with your player rankings, all of the players, maybe the substitutes, and obviously give them the ratings from 1 to 10. From 1 to 10, but obviously you don't have to necessarily do that. You can just comment anything about the game, and that's a really good thing, because when people go onto the video, they don't only want to hear my opinion, but they want to hear what other fans have to say as well. So if you do comment below, please do feel free to, so obviously we can read what you had to, or what your views were on the game. And the same goes for the man of match. I'll move on to the man of match section after I give you my player rankings, but certainly do comment below with who you thought the best player was. But obviously now to move on to the player rankings, starting in goal with Wayne Hennessy, who I'm going to give a 7. Rarely threatened, but did the basics well enough. Made a key save late in the game to keep a Jack Wilshere free kick out and put in a strong performance. Martin Margerson, the new goalkeeping coach, appears to be having a positive impact. So obviously Wayne Hennessy here, I've given him a 7 because once again it was a very good game from him, and considering it was the first clean sheet in quite a long time, I believe it was the 3rd of December, you can actually say that the goalkeeper had a pretty decent game, and definitely Hennessy did, and that's why I've given him the 7. And you know, our new formation, the way we set up actually meant that we contained Bournemouth for quite a lot of the game, which meant that Wayne Hennessy wasn't really threatened in the goal. So, you know, he didn't really have too many saves to do. But when he had to make a save, or when he had to do the basics, whether that be getting down low to make a save, going to catch a ball from a corner, whenever he had to do that or cover his area, he done that very well. So although, you know, we contained Bournemouth very well and they didn't really have much to do in the game, they didn't have many chances, you know, because of Wayne Hennessy, because he's done the basics right, he made sure that we kept that, or we made good use of that dominance we had. And obviously, yes, he done the basics right, but there was also a really crucial save he made in about the 90th minute against Jack Wilshere. Jack Wilshere, about 20 yards out, hit a free kick, was just about to creep in the bottom right hand corner. Obviously it bounced off the post, Hennessy made the save and claimed the ball, and then obviously he threw the ball out, started up the counter attack, and we scored from that. So just showing that, you know, it could have been 1-1, we could have not kept the clean sheet and drawn another game, but because Hennessy got down low to make that save, and the fact that he set up the counter attack just shows what of an impact he had. And to be honest, I could say it was a very strong performance. You know, the fact that he didn't really do much, but when he had to do it, when he had to do the basics, he done that right, and that's why I think I can say he had a strong performance. And obviously I did do a podcast about the new staffing changes, obviously the new assistant coach and obviously the new goalkeeping coach. So obviously Martin Margerson is the new goalkeeping coach, and actually it appears to be having quite a positive impact. The fact that Hennessy's now going to claim crosses, the fact that Hennessy's now doing the basic things right, getting low better, you know, trying to position his feet better, the fact that Wayne Hennessy's doing these little things better, or he's trying to do more of them, just shows that actually how the new coaching has actually helped him. And I said that before, I said when I done that podcast, you know, looking over the new changes at the club, I said that the new goalkeeping coach will be beneficial for the club, because it's, you know, no offence to Andy Woodman, but he wasn't really a fantastic coach. But Martin Margerson, he's got experience at international and at club level, and we've already seen that already, the fact that he's making an impact on the team, making our goalkeepers even better. But certainly a well-deserved 7 from Hennessy, although he wasn't really threatened by Bournemouth's attack. You know, he's still done the basic things right. Obviously, before I go on to talk about the defenders and sort of the fullbacks, I'm just going to discuss a bit of the formation. And as you probably guessed, because I said the word fullback, obviously we played with a 3 at the back formation. So the two sort of formations which I think we primarily played throughout the game was the 3-5-2 formation and the 4-3-3 formation. So obviously in the back 3 you had the back 3 defenders of Scott Dann, James Tompkins and Damien Delaney. And obviously I talked about the wing backs already. You have Patrick Van Aanholt, the new signing, making his debut on the left hand wing back, and obviously you had Joe Ward playing in a more advanced right back role to which he's used to, obviously playing on the right wing back role. And obviously in the midfield, the sort of midfield 3 we had the Yohan Cabaye, Jason Puncheon and James McArthur, obviously with Puncheon playing a little bit deeper and allowing McArthur and Cabaye to be quite advanced. And obviously in the 3-5-2 formation, you got 2 players up front, and I've called this sort of section forwards plus striker because obviously Zaha isn't really a striker, but he was playing quite forward, and you could say at times when we were playing the 3-5-2, or it looked like to be a 3-5-2, he was playing up front, sort of playing off Benteke. So obviously Benteke, Zaha, they were the two players playing up front. But obviously when you're playing this formation, obviously it gives you a little bit of balance to the team. It gives you your defensive cover, as well as players who can do the wing backs who can do defensive and offensive work. Obviously it gives you the midfield three who can change roles, do defensive and offensive roles, and obviously it gives you the two strikers, or the one striker up front, so they can play off other players. And obviously in this case, when we were playing the 3-5-2, you obviously had your three defenders, you had your two wing backs with your midfielders there, and obviously you had Zaha and Benteke playing up front. And that's the thing I think worked quite well for Palace, the fact that Zaha has now improved on his end product, so his shooting was better, he hit the post throughout the game, the fact that he's got the pace to play off Benteke, who isn't that fast but is quite physical. So that formation quite worked. And the other formation we used was the sort of the 3-4-3 formation. That one quite simple, you know, you had the three centre backs, you had your two wing backs, and obviously you had your two midfielders who were Kabay and Punchin. Then you had MacArthur playing on the left wing, which is surprising, but his work rate was fantastic. You had Zaha playing on the right, and obviously Benteke down the middle. So actually I think that this formation worked really well, and obviously it gave us a balance. It gave us a balance in the team which we haven't seen in quite a long time. But do comment below with what you think about the new formation, and what how you think the new signings will fit into this formation going forward. Now to move on to the first wing back who made his Crystal Palace debut, Patrick Van Aanholt, who I'm going to give a 7. Covered a great deal of turf throughout the match, providing an attacking and defensive support throughout. A great start to his Palace career. Could have scored a crucial second goal when played in by Wilfried Zaha. So obviously Patrick Van Aanholt here making his debut after signing for the club from Sunderland for a fee believed to be around £40 million, and actually it was a great start to Palace career. Now obviously we do know that the way Sam Allardyce, you know, kept Sunderland up last season was by changing formations, and obviously, you know, working from the back. And we've seen that with Palace in the last few games, the fact that he started to improve the defence and then they start moving forward. And certainly this was evident in this game. And one of the things he did do at Sunderland last year was obviously he worked with Patrick Van Aanholt, but he played him in a wing back role. And obviously with him working with him at Sunderland and knowing his strengths, he played him in that formation again with Palace, and actually it was to great effect. And obviously when you're playing in a wing back role, you need to, yes, be defensive, obviously getting back, tracking back, acting as say like a second left back or right back, but obviously you have to try and go forward as well and act sort of like a winger. And Patrick Van Aanholt done that perfectly. He provided us a lovely balance between our attacking play and our defensive play. You know, he got back when he had to get back, and obviously he got forward when he had to obviously get crosses in, which a few of his crosses were good, fantastic even, you know. And obviously he tried to link up play, and that's the thing with him, you know. We talked about our new signings, Jeffrey Slutt, Patrick Van Aanholt. These players were brought into the side to bring, yes, a left-footed player at left back, but also to bring a little bit more pace and someone who can play, who's versatile, who can play at wing back, left back, or even as a left winger. And obviously Patrick Van Aanholt used his pace in this game to get past players, try and run channels around other players, and actually that worked to great effect. And one of the things really I liked about his game is, yes, he had the balance right. He was attacking and defensive, but also he did cover quite a lot of ground. So when he had to track back, you know, he would track the man quite closely, try to get a tackle in, you know, try to get headers away. And yes, he had a few misplaced passes here and there, but any player on their debut for the club, or you know, the first game in quite a few weeks, they're going to make a few little mistakes, and you know, none of them led to goals, so it's fine on his account. But certainly, you know, Patrick Van Aanholt, I think a 7 is a fair result from, you know, a good start to his Palace career, you know. And you know, with him playing in that wing-back role, he's got the chance to go forward and obviously defend as well. And obviously he provided us with that great balance. And the thing really I really loved about his game is the fact that he covered quite a lot of ground. So the fact that he was, yes, running forward, trying to make as much room and space as possible, but also he was man-marking his men quite closely to obviously cover a lot of ground in that respect. And really the final thing really to talk about him, yes, he had a fantastic debut, you know, we kept a clean sheet, so from a defensive perspective that was fantastic. We scored 2 goals, fantastic, you know, for him, from, you know, being on the winning team. But the thing is, he could have scored a goal on his debut. And I'm not going to criticise him for this, because you know, he's a left back slash left wing back, so he isn't fantastic at shooting. And although he scored a few goals for Sunderland, you know, that isn't really his main forte. His forte is sort of crossing and running at speed, but he did almost score. You know, Wilfried Zaha, fantastic run down the middle. Once again, talking about Zaha playing off Benteke, Wilfried Zaha, a lovely strong run down the middle, laid the ball off to Van Aanholt with plenty of space, because Bournemouth left loads of space down the left flank. He had a shot, Van Aanholt, and he went straight into the stand. So, you know, we know he's good at running into the area and having shots from close range, but when you sort of laid up on the edge of the area, he's not going to take the shot very well. And obviously in this case, he shot it over. But certainly, that alone, or move that aside, he actually had a pretty good defensive game. So now to move on to the first centre-back of our back three, and that is Damien Delaney, who I'm going to give a 7. A solid game from the typically dependent centre-back. A scuffed clearance late in the game helped keep Palace in the lead. Provided the assist for Dan with a neat flick on. So obviously Damien Delaney here, I've given him a 7 because once again, from the veteran, the very experienced player, it was a very solid game from him, and I actually think that actually this new formation works really well for him. And the reason I think that it works well for him is, yes, he isn't really the fastest player, so obviously if you play sort of 2 centre backs and one of them goes forward, you're going to be left under pressure, and if you've got a fast sort of forward, they're going to run past you and score. But I think what this formation gives us is, you know, you've got your 3 centre backs, which means maybe 1 or 2 of them can go forward and the other one can stay behind and sort of be that last line of defence. And Damien Delaney in this game was that last line of defence. He didn't really move forward too much. He wasn't like Tompkins in the fact that he tried to be ball playing, but that meant that he didn't really get tired as much throughout the game, and obviously it meant that where he's not that fast, when Bournemouth were on the counter-attack, he was already there and he didn't really have to chase back in the shadows. And that's another thing I like about the formation we play. Yes, it gives us a lot of balance, you know, the fact that we've got enough offensive and defensive players, but in that case, because you've got 3 centre-backs, you know, 1 or 2 of them can go forward, the other one can stay back, which means that if the other ones aren't particularly quite fast, it means there'll be someone there tracking back, and obviously in this case, it was Damien Delaney. And I think that, you know, you may say for a 35-year-old, you may be coming to the end of your career, but maybe with this formation, he could play another 2 or 3 seasons, and that's purely because his pace won't necessarily be quite crucial to the way he plays, obviously because he's got the support from the other players around him. But, you know, a very solid game. You know, he's normally typically dependent. You know, we know what to expect from him, and he gives us his all every week, so we know he can have a few off games, but normally he's quite reliant, and obviously we've seen it in the last few weeks with solid performances, and this was just another example of that. And actually, he did have a clearance late in the game, which actually kept Palace in the lead. So obviously, we haven't had a clean sheet, or even a win. We haven't had a win in 9 games. We haven't had a clean sheet since the 3rd of December. So it's just showing how much, or how crucial the defence was to this game. The fact that we kept up, we got our first win, and obviously our first clean sheet in quite a long time. And his clearance late in the game, yes, it was sort of scuffed. He almost scored an own goal with it, but that clearance kept Palace in the game, meant that we cleared the danger from Bournemouth, and obviously we could restart from the throwing. So it's just showing, once again, his experience can come useful when you're under pressure with, say, a few minutes to go in the game. But that sort of calmness when under pressure meant that he made the clearance and obviously kept us in the game. And we talk about him doing a good job defensively. He was an aerial threat in this game as well. You know, he provided the assist for Dan's goal with a nice flick on. You know, the ball went out from the corner down to Jason Puncheon on the left wing. Lovely cross from Puncheon into the area. Obviously Damien Delaney, lovely flick on to Scott Dan, obviously for Scott Dan to score. So obviously Damien Delaney, you wouldn't say he's the most creative defender, you know, he's normally known for doing nitty gritty stuff, but in this instance, when he had the aerial threat coming to him, or where he had the aerial, we had to do something aerial, he was able to get a nice flick on for Dan, for obviously Dan to score his 3rd goal of the season. So once again, you know, Damien Delaney, yes, he was very solid defensively, and that's why I've given him a 7, but the thing that was really impressive about his performance was actually, at his age, he still got the creativity to obviously provide an assist for the other teammate. But once again, good performance from him, a well-deserved 7. Now to move on to James Tompkins, who I'm going to give a 7. Like Delaney, Tompkins showed great composure and commitment throughout the game. So obviously James Tompkins here, there isn't really much to say about him because we kept our first clean sheet in quite a long time, and obviously you could say that the defenders were crucial to that. And you know, like Delaney, Tompkins was fantastic, he was solid throughout the game, and James Tompkins has actually been quite reliable this season with his performances, whether he'll be playing at right back, left back or centre back. So he's been playing quite well, and once again James Tompkins done that. And the thing I liked about his performance, he showed composure and commitment throughout the game. So when Bournemouth were on the attack, he'd be committed to his man, he'd stick to his man. He made a few fantastic tackles, you know, getting the ball away from danger, and obviously he had the composure to not let the game run away with him, and obviously he kept going till the end. And that's something we've seen with Palace over recent weeks, the fact that once we hit just before half time and once we hit right before the end, we sort of turn off, and that's when we've conceded more goals. And if you look at the statistics, we've conceded more goals in, say, the last sort of 2 or 3 minutes in of the half than any other team. So just showing that how, if you stay composed, you can keep a clean sheet. And obviously James Tompkins was quite crucial to that. But you know, I've given him a 7. There isn't really much more to say about him than what I said with Delaney, because once again it was a very solid performance from him where he showed great composure and commitment. Obviously moving on now to the captain Scott Dan, and the final player in our back three, who I'm going to give an 8. Making a goal-scoring return to the side, and continued his fine goal-scoring form against Bournemouth with his first goal since December. He defended well too. Dan's growing confidence is starting to make him look like a player that was considered for England. Obviously, Scott Dan here, I've given him an 8 because once again he had a fantastic performance. Now, obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about the defending because much like Delaney, Tompkins, they had a fantastic defensive performance. He defended well and he had quite a lot of confidence. But the thing that really impressed me is actually he's made a goal-scoring return to the side. So obviously, he wasn't playing against Man City last week. He was rested so he could play in this game against Bournemouth. And actually, that worked to our advantage because, he continued his fine goal-scoring form against Bournemouth with his first goal since December. So obviously, we know that, Scott Dan's got quite a history of scoring against Bournemouth. He scored against them twice last season. And, we know he's a good aerial threat. And once again, he scored another goal. This time, not from an aerial threat. He actually hit it with his foot. But the actual pass or the assist came from a header. But, we talk about Scott Dan, yes, being good defensively, which he was in this game, which is why I've given him the 8. But the fact that he can score goals as well is fantastic. And actually, it's his first goal since December. We may be saying, well, it's not that bad, the fact that he hasn't scored since December because he's a centre-back. But because we know he can score, it's quite a surprise that he hasn't scored since September. But that gives him 3 goals, I believe it is, or maybe 4 goals for the season, which is showing just what an asset he is. Yes, he's good defensively, and we've seen that with his growth in confidence. But we also know that actually he can actually score goals as well. And the fact that he had lovely awareness to get on the end of the Delaney flick on, the fact that he got his sort of foot right, just about right to put the ball right into the bottom left hand corner, all of that sort of composure was fantastic. And actually, we talked about his confidence. In the last few weeks we've had better results and we're building up our defensive sort of solidity, and actually Scott Dan's been quite crucial to that. And actually we can see how his confidence is starting to go back, and that's why he's been improving. And actually he looks like the player that was actually considered for England. So we know, a few years ago, or maybe a few months ago, we were calling for Scott Dan to be called up to the England squad. Now, we never did get called up, but based on this form, he was statistically one of the best English defenders in the league, so he should have really been in the shout. And actually, he wasn't really in the shout, and then obviously once the Euros came in the beginning of this season, he wasn't as good as he was before. But certainly the last sort of few games, especially against Everton and obviously against Bournemouth now, we've seen his confidence grow back now, and obviously he's now looking more like a player that we could consider for England, because certainly the likes of John Stones, they're not really having fantastic seasons in the Premier League. And if Scott Dan can, grow in confidence and become even better, maybe it's finally his chance to get an England call-up. But certainly an 8 from him. Yes, he was good defensively, and that's why I would have given him a 7. But the fact that he scored the goal, and he scored 3 goals now against Bournemouth, and obviously 3 goals for the season, that's obviously why I've given him the 8. Obviously, moving on now to the wing-back Joe Ward, who I'm going to give a 7. Put in a nitty-gritty, strong performance, somewhat cynical shift, and made Ryan Forster's game a very difficult one. Committed a number of fouls and was booked. So for Joe Ward here, I've given him a 7. Much like the rest of the defence, he was absolutely solid. And that, that's the thing about this formation. Yes, it gives us a bit more solidity, but it gives us a lot of balance to the side. And I think that's what we've been missing in the side. And Joe Ward is quite crucial to that. The fact that much like Slupp, and much like Van Aanholt, he can play, yes, both defensively and offensively. So in this game, with Ward playing a right wing back, it meant that he had to go forward quite a lot and obviously get back and defend. And actually, he put in quite a nitty gritty performance, making these tackles, making sure players can't get forward. And also, it was a very strong performance. In the last few weeks, we haven't seen the best of Joe Ward. He hasn't been as physical as he has been in the past, sort of holding off the ball, trying to stop crosses in. But in this game, he was fantastic at doing that, and that's something we haven't seen with his performance in quite a few weeks. And obviously, the main man that playing for Bournemouth on the left-hand side was Ryan Fraser. And actually, Joe Ward made his game a very difficult one. He committed to him, or had composure to deal with him. He was strong, like I said. He was doing nitty gritty stuff to make these tackles, to stop him getting forward. And obviously, he made it a very difficult one. And that's obviously the whole team played well in the fact that we managed to contain Bournemouth and constrain them to a few chances. But Joe Ward was quite crucial to that, because the main player he was asked to mark, Ryan Fraser, he was limited to I don't even know if he had any chances. So that just shows how good Joe Ward was. And obviously, although Joe Ward's performance was good, and I've given him a 7, he did commit a number of fouls and he was booked. So some of these fouls you could debatably say could have been a second yellow, or there could have been a red card. The elbow, people say it could have been a red card, but he's not trying to elbow him in the face, which is why the FA haven't taken action. But on another day, that maybe could have been a card. You know, there's another few fouls where he took players down, could have been fouls. But actually, I think some of the fouls he took for the team to keep us in the game, which is absolutely fine. And he got booked for one of the fouls, which is absolutely fine. But, you know, when you take a foul for the team and manage to get away with a booking, that's fantastic. But once again, Joe Ward, you know, I've given him a 7 because once again, it was like all of the defence, you know, the wing backs and the centre backs. It was a very solid performance from us, you know. The fact that we kept our first clean sheet in, well, I think it's our second clean sheet of the season since, and the first one since December the 3rd. So the fact that we kept that first clean sheet just shows of obviously how good of a defensive job all of our players done. But once again, Joe Ward, a 7 from him, a very strong performance from him. Now to move on to the midfield three, starting with Yohan Cabaye, who I'm going to give a 7. Industrious in the middle, enjoyed a great battle with England midfielder Jack Wilshere. Worked very well with Puncheon to constantly press Bournemouth's midfield. It worked perfectly. So obviously Yohan Cabaye here, I've given him a 7 because much like all of the team, he had a fantastic performance. Now I'll talk about players, you know, dominating the midfield, being the workhorse, and obviously in this game Yohan Cabaye was that, and the word I used to describe it was industrious. Now obviously with him playing sort of offensive and defensive roles, sort of as in that sort of centre park in the middle of the field, he had to do that, and obviously he enjoyed it. And obviously we talked about Joe Ward marking a player, you know. Yohan Cabaye, because he was playing quite central in the middle, he had to try and deal with the threat of Jack Wilshere, and actually he done that very well. You know, he kept Jack Wilshere, or he limited Jack Wilshere to few chances, and obviously the chances that Jack Wilshere did have, you know, they didn't really come to anything. So it just shows how his sort of industrious performance in sort of the centre of the park did obviously help to contain, you know, in my opinion, one of Bournemouth's biggest threats. But you know, we talk about, you know, players playing well and having good relationships with other players and linking up well. You know, Yohan Cabaye playing in that middle, in that sort of centre role, actually had a really good partnership with Jason Puncheon. Obviously, our sort of game plan was to, yes, obviously have the balance of obviously being defensive at the right time and obviously being offensive at the right time as well. But also our sort of plan was to play high press, try and constantly press on Bournemouth. And obviously that did show in the game. The fact that we pressed Bournemouth's midfield so much that they were limited to few chances, and obviously because it was, you know, pressed them too much, so much, they didn't really have any chances of note throughout the game. And it actually worked really perfectly. The fact that Sam Allardyce set the team up to, yes, be defensive and offensive, and obviously to press Bournemouth so hard that they didn't have anywhere to go. And if you look at the stats, you know, we dominated them. We had all the shots. We've had all the shots on target. We've created all the chances, had the possession. So the fact that we played this role in trying to contain Bournemouth's threat just is why we played so well. And we talked about in the last few weeks, yes, we played well. We dominated the play. But in this game, we really did dominate the play because we had the ball. We made sure they couldn't have the chances, and that's the main thing, really. You know, it's all against Everton. You know, yes, we played well, but we didn't contain their threat, and they had loads of chances. And obviously, we were lucky that only one of them went in, and albeit offside. Whereas Bournemouth, we contained them so much that they didn't have any chances, and that meant we weren't really under pressure that much throughout the game. But certainly, Yohan Cabaye, I've given him a 7 because once again, it was a very good performance from him down the middle. Man marked Jack Wilshere very well, keeping him, you know, giving him many few chances as possible. And obviously, once again, Yohan Cabaye, Jason Puncheon building that good partnership in the middle of the park. Obviously, moving on to the partner now, Jason Puncheon, and obviously the second player in our midfield three, who I'm going to give a 7. Playing in a deeper role, Puncheon showed unending energy and tenacity to help Palace win and retain possession. Didn't influence the game too much going forward, but he was steady enough in the midfield and slowed the pace down of the games when required. So obviously Jason Puncheon here, I've given him a 7 because much like Yohan Cabaye, and I'm going to keep saying this for all of the players, but he had a very good performance. Now we talk about Puncheon, you know, playing in a more advanced role, and Yohan Cabaye playing in a more deeper role. But this season, it seems that they've sort of switched roles around, and obviously in this game, that saw Jason Puncheon play in a deeper role, and actually it worked really well for him. You know, we know that he's very good at tracking back, man marking players, trying to tackle players, and obviously we saw that in this game, and obviously that's why he played so well in the deeper role. But the thing I really liked about Puncheon's game is the fact that he showed unending energy, much like James McCarthy. His stamina was fantastic. He kept going till the final whistle went, and obviously the tenacity to help Palace win. So the fact that he kept going, yes, he had the energy to actually perform it on the pitch, but also had sort of the mindset and the tenacity to keep going and help Palace get the win. And we talk about how important his role is in the team. You know, retaining possession was quite important for Palace because, you know, in the last few weeks, yes, we've dominated possession. We haven't really created any chances, but in this game, when he had the ball, he tried to create many chances as possible. And obviously, where he was playing in a deeper role, he didn't really have that much influence in the game, and the fact that, you know, when the team went forward, he couldn't really attack, he couldn't really pass the ball around, get many assists. But actually, in this game, you know, he was steady enough in the middle and obviously slowed the game down when required. So obviously, yes, where he was playing deeper, he couldn't go forward, he couldn't sort of try and link up with the wingers and the strikers. But where he's playing in a deeper role, you know, he would try and keep the possession going, try to find a pass to the sort of more offensive players, and obviously they could move forward and try and create something from the team. And the thing I really liked about his game, and I've said this, you know, for a few weeks now, you know, he slowed the pace down of the game when required. So, you know, when Bournemouth were playing quite fast and maybe players wanted to have a rest, or we wanted to sort of try and make them more tired by running around the pitch, you know, Jason Puncheon done that. He slowed the game down by just doing slow passes, 1-2 passes, you know, by pulling the ball back to the defenders and starting up the attack again. So by doing that and by slowing the game down, it meant that we had a good control of the game. But certainly Jason Puncheon here, I've given him a 7, because once again, although he was playing in a deep role, didn't really have much offensive influence in the game, he obviously done a good job defensively. And I must sort of just mention really the fact that he's not going to count as an assist, but his cross when the ball came out from the corner, his cross into Damien Delaney to get a flick on for Dan's goal. So a pre-assist, as I like to call it. He actually got that for Scott Dan's goal as well. But once again, a solid performance from him. Now to move on to the final player of our midfield three, James McArthur, who I'm going to give an 8. Played in a more advanced role, McArthur worked tirelessly to press Bournemouth's back line, got stuck in with a couple of tough tackles and came in with a fine curling effort, but faded as the game went on before being replaced. So obviously James McArthur here, I've given him an 8, because much like all of the team, and I keep repeating this, it was a fantastic performance from him. But the thing that stood out for me is, you know, I've given him an 8 and I'll go on to talk about it, but certainly, yes, he had a good performance, but he was a standout player in the fact that he was slightly better than the other players in the team. But, you know, we talked about Puncheon playing in a more deeper role. This season, obviously, with Puncheon playing in that role, it's allowed James McArthur to go forward and play in a more advanced role, and that's actually led to McArthur scoring 5 goals for the season. And actually, in this game, it was a classic example of what sort of assets he brings to the side. And the thing that I really like about his you know, his play, the way he plays, and I've said this in past podcasts, is his sort of stamina, his ability to press the team's back line. And in this game, because we tried to limit Bournemouth to as minimal chances as possible, it meant that all of the players were pressing, and Jason McArthur was a fantastic example of that. You know, he worked tirelessly, he didn't stop till the end, showing that stamina to try and press Bournemouth's backline to make sure they had as little opportunities as possible. And that sort of work, when he's playing in an advanced role, is crucial to the way we played. And obviously we talk about him doing that good job, obviously stopping their backline, or, you know, stopping their attack, but also trying to put pressure on the backline so we could try and score. You know, he still had a few good tackles when he went back and defend. You know, he came close as well with an effort. So yes, he was good defensively, you know, and offensively, the fact that defensively he was making tackles, offensively he was pushing Bournemouth's backline, but also he almost scored a goal. You know, he picked up the loose ball right on the edge of the area, had a shot, lovely curling effort, almost into the top right hand corner. So once again, showing another asset which he can bring to the side, which is obviously shooting. But to be honest, you know, we talk about his stamina. His stamina is good, and that's why I've given him an 8, the fact that how much influence he had on the game whilst he was on the pitch. But, you know, he's one of these players, he gets tired towards the end of the game and he was taken off. And obviously the impact he had in the game, he started the game really well, so much power, so much energy. But obviously as the game went on, he got a little bit tired and obviously fairly got replaced. And hopefully, you know, because he's had a few injuries lately, by bringing him off maybe 10 minutes ago, that will help preserve him for the game. Because certainly in this game, his influence was fantastic. But obviously, you know, James McArthur, I've given him an 8, because once again, a fantastic performance like the rest of the team. But obviously his was above and beyond some of the other players because of how he worked tirelessly and obviously didn't stop till the end. Obviously moving on to the winger slash striker slash forward, whatever you want to class Wilfried Zaha as, who I'm going to give a 9. A match-winning performance from Zaha without actually scoring or assisting. The winger was a constant threat to Bournemouth's back line, and by floating in behind Benteke, he proved difficult to mark as well. Almost announced his return with an early goal and looked a threat for Palace all game. So obviously Wilfried Zaha here, he's come back from the African Cup of Nations, played fantastic in this game, just proving how much of an asset he is. And we've talked about it in past podcasts, you know, how much we missed him in the last few games. And the fact that he's come back and made such an impact just proves that point. Now, obviously, I've given him a 9. I don't often give 9s lightly, but in this game, it was an absolutely fantastic match-winning performance from Zaha. And actually, yes, he was good before he left for the African Cup of Nations, you know, scored that wonderful that sort of bicycle kick goal. He scored and assisted a few goals before that, but actually in this game he came back in the side, had a fantastic match-winning performance, but actually didn't score or assist, and it's basically for the fact of his attacking threat. And you know, we talked about us trying to push and put pressure on Bournemouth's backline to, you know, put them under pressure so they wouldn't have any chances to try and go forward. Obviously that meant that because Palace were constantly putting pressure on Bournemouth, it meant that Wilfried Zaha had a constant running down the wing. He was running rings around the Bournemouth defenders trying to get inside, and because at times he was playing quite narrow with Benteke, it meant that he was just staying in behind Benteke to try and get the ball to him, but also when he got balls laid off to him from Benteke, he was able to do stuff with it. And that was evident with the fact that he almost scored early on in the game. He hit the post, another chance, he ran through a few plays in the box, had a shot, it was saved by the keeper. So actually showing that yes, he didn't score or assist, but actually it was a fantastic performance from him. The fact that he came back and he announced his arrival by, you know, hitting the post, having the goalkeeper make the save, and he's just proving what a fantastic asset he is. And I can't highlight enough, you know, we've missed him so much, his creativity, his pace, his energy, we've missed all of that whilst he's been at the African Cup of Nations. And now he's come back. We thought maybe it would take him maybe 1 or 2 games just to get used to it and get his fitness back up. But once again, he went full in there and made a fantastic influence in the game. And, you know, but where I talked about his position, the fact that he was in behind Benteke made sure he had more opportunities, where normally when you're out wide, all you can do is probably cross in and cut inside. But because he was playing quite narrow at times behind Benteke, it meant that, you know, he was able to get forward a lot more, try and cut in the area, have shots, and obviously the shot came off the post, and it actually proved difficult to mark. So if, yes, he's good out wide and he can run past the fullback, maybe if you put him in a narrow position, he could probably sort of duplicate that in a sort of narrow role, and he'd done that in this game. Because, you know, Bournemouth, because they were under so much pressure, it meant that it was very difficult to mark Wilfried Zaha. But once again, a fantastic achievement. You know, he's come back for the African Cup of Nations and continued his good form from what he was before he left. But once again, a match-winning performance from him. Obviously, moving on to the striker, Christian Benteke, who I'm going to give an 8. Benteke has been criticised for his lack of effort, despite being sometimes clear that he's been instructed not to chase defenders. His second half performance was topped up by scoring, and it was excellent. So obviously, Christian Benteke here, I've given him an 8, and much like the rest of the team, and I keep repeating this because, you know, it was a fantastic performance, and the fact that I haven't reviewed wins in quite a long time, and the fact that I'm reviewing a win now is amazing. You know, we haven't won since the 9th of December, so the fact that we've won a game is going to be pretty hard to talk about a win, considering we're not used to it of late. But Benteke, you know, I've given him an 8 because all of the players played well, but Benteke was above and beyond, and that's because, you know, in the last few games we've criticised him for not being involved in play enough, but in this game he done all of that right. He obviously scored the goal which killed the game, and he was just all round fantastic. Obviously I've talked about Zaha playing well, but actually I think sort of Zaha's introduction and the fact that he was playing in behind Benteke meant that Benteke had a good game. But I've talked about him being criticised in the last few games for a lack of effort. The fact that he doesn't, you know, chase down defenders, he doesn't try and hold up the ball enough, he doesn't try and run into the air and crosses are coming in to try and head them. But in this game, despite all of that criticism, he done all of that right. So in this game, he was chasing defenders, he was chesting down balls, linking up the other players into play by, you know, controlling the ball in his chest, passing the ball back. He was always trying to run in the areas and try and get ahead on the ball, which one of the chances, lovely ball in from Van Aanholt, he headed the ball down, a save by Boric. So just showing that, you know, if we can supply him and if he's instructed to chase the defenders, he can actually do very well. And obviously, yes, his performance was good and his second half performance was absolutely fantastic. You know, he was much better in the second half than he was in the first half. It was topped off by scoring. So yes, he was excellent throughout the game. You know, he was, like I said already, holding up the ball, trying to get others involved in the play. You know, had a few headers saved. The fact that he, you know, scored the goal was just a sort of topping, the icing on top of the cake. The fact that, yes, he done so well and then he got rewarded from a goal. You know, lovely cross from the substitute Andros Townsend on the left hand side, got it to Benteke. No players marking Benteke because he chased them down so much that they lost him. Managed to head the ball in. Nowhere goalkeeper would have had a chance of that. Bullet header into the top left hand corner, and a fantastic goal. And the fact that you see the pictures, the fact that there was so much emotion on his face, the fact that he went and celebrated with the fans, one of the fans kissed him on the cheek, you know, it just shows how crucial that goal was, and it just shows, you know, how much he means to us, but also to him. And if you look at the pictures, you know, some people may say his face looks scary, but you see the emotion on his face. it just shows how much it means to him to score. But certainly, Christian Benteke, a fantastic game from him. I've given him an 8 because yes, he was very good throughout the game, you know, with his hold-up play, getting involved, chasing defenders. But the goal did top it off, and it was obviously a very good goal he scored. So now to move on to the substitutes: Andros Townsend, Joe Ledley and Matthew Flamini. So obviously just starting with Joe Ledley and Matthew Flamini, I'm not really going to give them any ratings because they weren't really on the pitch long enough to make an impact. But just starting with Joe Ledley, you know, Sammy Lee, the new assistant manager, was geeing up Ledley before he came on, and obviously Ledley put in a strong 15-minute spell to keep Bournemouth away from the goal. Obviously they came on the pitch, tried to preserve the 1-0 win, and obviously we went on to win it 2-0. Obviously Matthew Flamini as well, brought on at the 90th minute just to slow the game down. It worked, you know, he was brought on for an offensive player just to give a little bit more energy to the side, because, you know, some of the players may be tired, and obviously just to make sure that our solidity at the back stayed on, and obviously that resulted in us, you know, going on to win the game. And obviously that just bringing on Flamini, that little bit of experience and more energy, and obviously that defensive cover, it worked quite well. Now obviously Andros Townsend, I don't normally give ratings to players who came on after, say, the 70th minute, but because Andros Townsend made such an impact on the game, I am actually going to give him a 6. Brought on for an exhausting looking MacArthur, Townsend did an excellent job of taking the pressure off the back line. The awareness he showed to win possession, the run that followed, and the fine Christian Benteke that set up the second goal showcased what he can contribute. So obviously before I go on to talk about Andros Townsend, you know, the game was played on deadline day, and there was actually quite a lot of debate and speculation about whether Andros Townsend would play and whether he would be going to Newcastle to have a medical to, you know, move back to Newcastle after 6 months at Palace. But actually Sam Allardyce has confirmed it. That was all sort of media rubbish. Yes, you know, Newcastle did express an interest in him, but there was no formal bid or loan bid to sign Andros Townsend. So actually it was all just media stuff, and actually he showed that with, you know, despite all this speculation, he was still able to put that aside and actually perform in the game. Now I talked about, you know, players being brought in, Ledley, Flamini, just to sort of give cover. You know, Andros Townsend was, you know, exactly that. He was brought on for MacArthur because, you know, he looked a bit exhausted, and obviously Townsend was excellent. You know, he had a little bit more energy, he was a lot more faster than MacArthur, and obviously that took pressure off the back line. The fact that because MacArthur was slow, when MacArthur got the ball, he couldn't really do much with it, whereas when Andros Townsend got the ball in MacArthur's position, he could do so much more of it because he had the energy, and obviously he had the pace to take the pressure off the back line and get rid of the ball quickly. And obviously I talked about Benteke. Yes, Benteke had a fantastic game, and obviously the scoring a goal was the cherry on the cake, but you've got to give credit to Andros Townsend. Now we talk about, you know, I've talked about this in the past, you know, when we had Alan Pardew here, Andros Townsend was playing on the left. He weren't really happy, and that's why he wasn't really playing well. But in this game, he was brought on to play on the left, and actually he just showed that being a two-footed player, it doesn't really make that much difference. You know, he had a fantastic awareness to when Bournemouth, because we put so much pressure on Bournemouth, when they had a sloppy pass, Andros Townsend was able to win back possession from the interception, and obviously the run that followed right to the byline of the box, lovely cross to get it back to Benteke, because Benteke was putting so much pressure on the Bournemouth defenders, they weren't there to mark him, and obviously he put the bullet header into the goal. So it just shows that Andros Townsend, he came on the pitch to make an impact. He took pressure off of the back line, obviously done a job that MacArthur did, but also, you know, had the sort of offensive effect you would have expected him to have, because obviously he was able to get the assist for Benteke's goal. And yes, we congratulate Benteke on scoring the goal. The fact that he had great awareness to get on the end of the cross and put the bullet header right in the top left hand corner. We've also got to give credit for Andros Townsend to picking out that cross, and also for the fact that his awareness to obviously intercept the pass and obviously put the pressure on the Bournemouth backline that they had to make the mistake. But just to go on, they're all the player rankings. You know, I've said this at the beginning. Do comment below with what you think about them, and obviously comment below with your player rankings, obviously giving the players ratings from 1 to 10 of what you thought. But to be honest, just go a little summary of the game. You know, Crystal Palace, we executed Sam Allardyce's plan to perfection. You know, Sam Allardyce's tactics and the approach to, you know, his approach to play is finally taking hold in the squad. The fact that, you know, we were defensively solid, and that's sort of the tactics Sam Allardyce wants to do. People say he built him back. He's definitely done that with the fact that he started to introduce the 3 at the back with 2 wing backs. So his tactics are sort of changing the way we play and giving us a little bit more balance in the side. And obviously because he changed the way we play, it meant that we dominated the midfield. Obviously frustrating Bournemouth, because Bournemouth didn't create any more chances. And obviously the thing that we've been missing in the last few weeks, you know, against Everton, we had loads of chances but we didn't take them. Against Man City in the Cup, we had chances, we didn't take them. Against Swansea a few weeks ago where we lost, we had chances, we didn't take them. But in this game, Sam Allardyce has finally got the tactics right, that when a chance was given to Palace, you know, whether it be a winger, whether it be a striker, obviously all of the players took the chances, and that's what helped us to win the game. You know, with that ball that came in from Puncheon and that flick on from Delaney, a player may not have been there to put it in, but the fact that we got the tactics right and all of the players took their chances when they had them, obviously just shows, you know, how the team is improving. And to be honest, I've talked about this when, you know, when Allardyce was, you know, employed. If Palace are to get out of this trouble, you know, out of the relegation zone, it would be like through performances like this. So if we continue to put in good performances like this, where we're dominating the midfield, we're trying to frustrate the opposition by not giving them any space or any time, if we take all of the chances we get from all of the crosses or from the balls, then of course we'll finally get out of the relegation trouble. And you know, we look about the table now, that win has helped us to get ever closer to Swansea, who are just above us, 2 points above us, and if we do win against Sunderland, we could go as high as 15. So it's just showing how important this win against Bournemouth was. And obviously I talked about us sort of dominating the midfield. You know, we did limit Bournemouth to few chances, and obviously when we had opportunities ourselves, when they were presented to us, we took them with clinical precision. So just showing once again that we can frustrate another team, but at the same time, when we have our own chances, because Bournemouth are under so much pressure, we're able to take them with precision. And obviously the final thing really about the game, you know, it was a great performance. You know, it displayed greater tenacity than it was throughout other games. You know, in this game the team showed great tenacity, and to be honest, there isn't really much more to say. But I really think that Palace did actually deserve this win after obviously the fantastic performance we put in. Now for my man of the match award. But before I do that and give you my man of the match and who I thought had the biggest influence in the game, I'm now going to give you the results of my Twitter poll. So obviously if you do want to vote in next week's Twitter poll and have your opinion heard on who you thought the best player was, and obviously the player with the biggest influence, then of course you can vote using the Twitter poll. And obviously the Twitter poll or the Twitter account isn't run by Crystal Palace, it's actually run by my own personal Twitter account, which you can find using the @the podcast. And obviously do give me a follow on there, yes, so you can vote in next week's Twitter poll. But much like the Crystal Palace account, I do regularly update it with the latest news. So if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace, then do give me a follow on there, so obviously you can keep up to date with things like that. And you know, quite a lot of people, I've got quite a lot of follows in the last few weeks, and that's because that's seen an influx in the people voting in the poll. So obviously more people are going on to my Twitter following me, so they obviously can vote in next week's Twitter poll. So obviously if you do want to have an influence on who the best player was and who wins the Twitter poll for the man of the match, then of course do go and follow me on there. But just to go through the results of the Twitter poll, you know, before I go and give you the results, starting in last place, you know, James Tonkins did miss out, and you know, although he was fantastic defensively, it was between him or Scott Dann, and yes, they were both good defensively and they both made tackles and blocks, but because, you know, Scott Dann scored the goal when, you know, James Tonkins didn't, that's just why I put Scott Dann in there rather than James Tonkins. Not because his performance was any worse, just purely because Dan got the goal and obviously Tompkins didn't. But starting in fourth place with 8% of the votes is Christian Benteke. Closely followed up in third place with 14% of the votes with Scott Dann. Then in second place and runner-up in this week's Man of Match poll with 24% of the votes is James McArthur, which means the winner of this week's Twitter poll on his return to the side from the African Cup of Nations is Wilfried Zaha with an impressive 54% of the votes. So congratulations Wilfried for winning this week's Man of the Match Twitter poll, and congratulations on a very solid performance by you. Now, like I say every week, you don't get a trophy or certificate, but you do get my sincere congratulations on what was a very solid performance from you on your return from the African Cup of Nations. But just to go through why I've put these four players onto the shortlist, you know, I've talked about Scott Dann and James Tompkins being good defensively. You know, obviously Scott Dann defended well throughout the game, but obviously scored the goal, his first goal since September, and obviously scored the first goal of the game, and that's why I've put him on there. He was good defensively and obviously was the threat to obviously get the goal. McArthur, you know, McArthur worked tirelessly to put pressure on Bournemouth's backline to try and make sure that Bournemouth were limited to as few chances as possible. You know, he got stuck in with a few tackles, you know, to try and, you know, get the ball off of Bournemouth when they did have it on the rare occasion. So that worked really well from the side. The fact that McArthur's work rate was crucial, I think, in my opinion, to how we won the game. Obviously, Wilfried Zaha, I've said it already, you know, he was a constant threat to Bournemouth. So yes, McArthur was putting pressure on Bournemouth to limit them to chances, but Wilfried Zaha was the one being the threat to Bournemouth. You know, he was using his pace to run past them, his crossing ability to get balls to Benteke, to get balls to whoever's in the box, and obviously shooting as well. You know, he had a shot that hit the bar, he had a shot, hit the post, he had another ball, shot which was saved by the keeper. So it's just showing that actually he's starting to improve his end product as a player, and obviously he's slowly becoming better, but he was a constant menace to Bournemouth. And obviously Christian Benteke, in the last few weeks he hasn't been fantastic, but in this game he done everything right. Obviously he scored the second goal of the game, lovely awareness to get on the getting the end of the cross. His hold up play was good, he was able to bring players into play, he was able to link up along well with players, and obviously that's the thing, him and Wilfried Zaha up front, sort of in that formation, actually they linked up quite well together. But there are reasons I put them on there, and the only reason I put these 4 players on there instead of, say, maybe a few of the other players is just because these players stood out for me. Their influence in the game was much bigger than all of those other players who were in the team. And that's not to say that their performance was any worse, because everyone's performance was fantastic. Every player gave it their all, but these players did shine out for me, obviously because of the influence they had. Obviously Scott Dann, defensively good. MacArthur for his work rate, Wilfried Zaha for his constant pressing and his threat to Bournemouth, and obviously Christian Benteke for getting the goal and his hold-up play. But to be honest, I think there's only going to be one winner of my man match, and that is Wilfried Zaha. So congratulations, Wilfried. You're the double winner of this week's man of match poll for the game against AFC Bournemouth. And the only reason I've given it to him is because on his return to the side, you would expect him to maybe be a bit run down with fitness, but he was fantastic. And the reason I put him on there, yes, that all of our players were threats to Bournemouth. They tried to limit Bournemouth, they tried to sort of damage Bournemouth by going forward. Wilfried Zaha had done that constantly, and he was the biggest threat for Palace down the back line, and that's why in the player ratings I actually gave him a 9. And the thing is, the thing that we've missed when he's been in the African Cup of Nations was his pace, crossing and his shooting skill. And obviously in this game, with him coming back, them 3 things did obviously improve with the whole team's play. But now you've heard the match report, player rankings and my man of the match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce, Wilfried Zaha and Patrick Van Aanholt following the game.
Well, welcome back into the Premier League tonight. Reaction to the fine victory for us here at Bournemouth.
What can I say? It's a buzzing feeling winning again. Everyone won in ages, but in all, the whole team's performance today was incredible. It was a non-stop shift. So yeah, I think we deserved the win today, and I'm just happy to be back, to be part of it again.
And you mentioned the non-stop shift. I mean, particularly sort of from everybody, the work rate, the defensive performance to keep them out at the end. It was just like exactly what the manager's spoken about this team performing like.
Yeah, that's what we need to do to win games. We need to be at it constantly, and obviously we showed it today. And that's what we need to do for the rest of the season, and we'll get out of where we are, because I'm confident that we can definitely get out of this, because personally I feel like our team, we've got a good team, good individuals. We just need to work together and just get these wins.
And obviously since you've been away, obviously the manager came in just before you went away, but the backroom team has changed. It's really the training ground environment is slightly different. It's a time of change.
Yeah, it is. Well, sometimes change is good, and all we need to do is, no matter who comes in, the goal is the same. Just get on that pitch and get a win. So obviously the gaffer's just structuring it well, and we just need to go out there and do what we need to do.
And we know that while you were away at the AFCON, you were keeping in touch with Palace, watching the games. Must have been hard from that distance to sort of cheer the lads on. Yeah,
obviously I've always got Palace at heart. Any chance I can get, or any way I can get to watch the games, I will watch it. So the players know I support them either way. But I'm just glad I'm back in person to help the team.
And of course the skipper getting the opening goal, and then it was so good tonight where after soaking up so much pressure and defending well, we went up the other end and clinched the victory.
Yeah, I feel like that's Palace's personality. We defend, then we break on teams. Obviously we've got Andros, myself. We can break on teams, and obviously we work so hard, and we just managed to take our chance when we got that chance at the end, which was nice, because obviously we soaked up, 20 minutes of just straight defending, so it was nice to get the goal in the end.
And of course a few new bodies coming into the squad, some we've met, some we haven't, in the window. One of those, Patrick, making his debut tonight. It was a good addition in down that left-hand side. Those extra bodies the boss has brought in just to sort of strengthen things up. Yeah,
obviously we've got a good team already, and obviously the gaffer's not new to this situation, so he knows what to do. Brought in a couple of players, and Pat's obviously a player I've played against, very fast and good technically as well, so he's a good addition to the team. So looking forward to playing more with him.
Patrick, let's first of all ask you for your reflections on your Crystal Palace debut. Quite a night down on the south coast.
Yeah, first game, and I think the most important thing is that we won today. We got the 3 points, taking the 3 points back home, and I've enjoyed my first game. The team helped me well get settled in, and then the fans were unbelievable today. So for the great support, and I think we did well today. I think we deserved the 3 points.
From signing on at the weekend, it's been quite a whirlwind for you, quite a turnaround. You're then travelling down here. I mean, you've got much time to sort of get to know the teammates, etc. before the game was on you tonight.
I signed on Monday morning and I trained in the afternoon with the team. So I got used to the guys in training already, but I'm still getting to use the names. So now we got plenty of time to get to there. But I'm very happy that I'm here, and I'm very happy that we got the win today.
And of course, for yourself, sort of slotting into the team tonight, it was very important. The manager spoke yesterday about keeping a clean sheet. That's always important because, as you know, from working with Sam before, that you can build on those clean sheets and get some results and get a sort of unbeaten run going.
Yeah, of course. The gaffer always says clean sheets wins your games, and I think today we proved that. We kept the clean sheet and we scored 2 goals and we won the game. So it's a very plus for us. Now we got to work on Saturday. Saturday we've got Sunderland, tough game. So it's good for us now. We're working on and then see what happens on Saturday.
And building on sort of the result is the important thing on Saturday. You mentioned the fans there, a good following, good support down here. Do you know much about, remember playing at Selhurst Park for the opposition, the kind of atmosphere that will be there on Saturday?
The home fans always cheer the home team on, and but for the last couple of years I've been on the away side, so it's good for me to be on the home side now and see what happens on Saturday.
Particular noticeable tonight, obviously, return of Wilfried Zaha from the AFCON tournament. One of the noticeable performances from Palace tonight. It's someone there who's always going to cause the opposition defence problems.
Wilfried. He's a very good player, young, talented, and he's very important to this team. You've seen it. He's very strong, and every time you give him the ball, he's dangerous, and he can create something out of nothing. So he's a very good player, and I'm very happy that I'm on his side.
Sam, you spoke at the press conference yesterday about you'd settle for a 0-0, you wanted that clean sheet, you got the clean sheet, and even more with 3 points. You must be delighted.
Yes, I was. I think that the only disappointing thing today was half time. We wasn't winning because of how we applied ourselves. I think that Wilf hit the post, and then Wilf had a really good chance, didn't quite catch it right, and we were looking dangerous on the break. I think it's great to have Wilf back. I think he's brought something else to the team. I think that the whole team's probably played the best for 90 minutes since I've been here. We've had spells of good play and then spells where we dropped down below where we need to and then ended up conceding goals. We didn't look like conceding a goal today. We look very solid. We're playing away from home. So it's a three massive points for us at this stage of the season, and of course for me a great relief because it's my first victory since I've been here. So it didn't normally take that long, and all the other clubs it has taken a long time this time. But I'm really pleased for the players. They've worked hard for the result today, and hopefully we can continue from where we've left off today and go and pick up more points along the way very, very quickly.
You mentioned about playing so well for 90 minutes. You've spoken since you've been Palace manager about important defending as a team. That was noticeable tonight, wasn't it? The result throughout the side.
Yes, and the back three brings a bit of solidarity. It did against Everton, and only fortune going against us because we'd lost a player through cramp injury and we couldn't get the sub on, and I think that they scored in the last minute, Seamus Coleman. So we were hugely disappointed that happened to us. And today, I don't think Bournemouth ever looked like scoring today, really. And I think that because of that, we grew in confidence. And for me, the killer blow we struck against against Bournemouth is another crucial one that I'll be telling the players about waiting for the right opportunity to pounce again and kill the opposition off. Bournemouth stretching themselves because they're losing, us picking up a loose ball, cross, Benteke had a goal, kills the opposition 2-0. But like she said, the most important thing for me today was Crystal Palace didn't concede a goal.
And you mentioned Wilf there, back from the AFCON, but also tonight a debutant in Patrick, who you know well. You must have been delighted to see his performance.
Yeah, I'm really pleased he's joined us, and he's an outstanding player. Otherwise, I wouldn't have persevered for as long as I did, and to try and push as hard as I could push to get him into the football club. So I think he'll have a big impact. I think Wilf had a big impact today coming back as well. So players see players like that performing and coming into the side, lifts their performances. Andros Townsend coming on, creating the second goal and doing a very good job after James McCarthy had done the job. So squad's looking quite good in terms of strength and depth, and added another new player today. Hopefully he'll settle in and get on the pitch as quickly as possible.
You mentioned the addition of players. Obviously the transfer window coming to a close. As a manager of a Premier League team at the end of January, you must be relieved that that's actually happening.
I'm always relieved at the end of the January window, because it is a nightmare, and always has been a nightmare, and always will be a nightmare, and it's a particular nightmare when you're a little more desperate than everybody else with the position that they're in. But you know, the chairman and everybody behind the scenes have worked exceptionally hard to, and obviously the owners Josh and Dave in America, to provide the funds and us to finally find some, we think, quality players, and hopefully that'll shine through in the next few months with the players we've already got.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Sam Allardyce, Wilfried Zaha and Patrick Van Aanholt had to say after game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against Bournemouth. But make sure to come back next week for my post-match review of the game against Sunderland. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace!